This is AP News Minute. Kuwait says its air defenses opened fire early Monday to intercept incoming drones and missiles. Iran acknowledged launching a retaliatory strike after the U.S. bombed radar and drone control sites in Iran. The U.S. said that was in response to Iran shooting down an American drone. The fighting comes as the U.S. and Iran are trying to negotiate an end to the war. President Donald Trump expressed optimism about the talks in a social media post on Monday. Israeli troops in Lebanon captured a strategic mountain topped with a centuries-old castle. Israel is battling Iran-backed Hezbollah militants in Lebanon. Direct Israel-Lebanon negotiations are set for Tuesday in Washington. The mayor of Newark, New Jersey, imposed a nighttime curfew around an immigration detention center. It follows intense police-protester clashes. Advocates say detainees began a hunger strike over the poor conditions.
New reports today that President Trump has submitted tougher terms to Tehran. We've reached out to the White House and have yet to hear back from them on a response to that. Although President Trump, in a sit-down interview with Fox, doubled down on his two non-negotiables, the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's nuclear capabilities.
We're making a great deal. We're going to make a great deal. Other, we'll just go back and finish it off militarily.
So again, a deal or the administration would resume military activity, although some Republicans today still say Washington has an advantage.
I think that they have all the time in the world, if you think about it, because they have absolutely devastated the Iranian Navy, the Iranian Air Force. We have complete control over the skies. They've devastated their defense industrial base.
Democrats argue the continued conflict is creating a very different reality for Iran.
Iran is stronger than they were 90 days ago before this war because they've used their cheap and lethal drones not just to close the Strait of Hormuz, but to attack our partners and allies in the region.
Iran's top negotiator today says no agreement will be reached until Iran's rights are secured, and they won't believe promises, only action. Meantime, the president has been calling for the cancellation of the Freedom 250 concert series on the National Mall after a growing number of artists have decided that they will no longer participate in the event, calling it partisan. Now the event organizers say that the president himself will headline and kick off the event, which is set to take place on June 24th. In Washington, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
We are especially committed right now to the steps necessary to ensure we do not see an ICE surge in New Jersey.
New Jersey's Attorney General addressing the public amid clashes between protesters and police outside Delaney Hall, an ICE facility in Newark.
The conditions in there are horrible.
Protesters have gathered for days outside the facility where inhumane conditions have been alleged for months. The Department of Homeland Security has pushed back against those allegations. On Friday, the operator of the privately owned facility painted yellow lines on the sidewalk and posted private property and no trespassing signs outside the main entry points. To reduce tensions, officials said state police would take over public safety operations from ICE agents outside Delaney Hall. Governor Mikey Sherrill said there would be a peaceful, protected protest zone just outside the facility. But after more clashes between protesters and police Saturday night, a curfew was enacted. On Sunday, the governor addressed the continuing unrest and called for calm.
Last night, we saw masked individuals attack the barrier, taking aggressive, dangerous actions against Newark and New Jersey State Police.
I'm Reed Binion reporting.
This nearly 1 million square foot textile facility in Madison, North Carolina once employed 250 people. That is until it was forced to close. The site sat empty, another casualty of an industry that is being left behind. But the ruins of the past industrial revolution are becoming the foundation for the next.
Artificial intelligence is the third catalyst that's going to transform society. The first being electricity. That certainly transformed society and turbocharged capitalism and the Industrial Revolution. The second wave of the Industrial Revolution was the internet. That transformed society and also transformed industries. And the third wave and catalyst is artificial intelligence.
Almost looks like a war zone.
Building an AI data center from scratch on open land can take years and significant resources.
These concrete slabs, what are they for?
That's where the generators are going to be placed.
Sam Tabar believes he has a simple solution. Take over abandoned industrial sites that already sit on the power grid and retrofit them for the AI revolution.
The United States and Canada were large centers of manufacturing once upon a time, and a lot of that moved to Asia or South America or Latin America. And so what happens is that these facilities have been left for dead and they're abandoned, but there is existing power to those sites. There's been a lot of backlash across the United States and the world because of the greenfield approach when you're starting from scratch. A lot of community residents have not signed up to having a huge building suddenly in front of their eyes, sucking up power, sucking up water, and a perception that utility bills are going up. And so what we've done is we've avoided that by using existing buildings that have existing power to those buildings. And also, it's much faster speed to market to get an existing building into an AI campus instead of starting from scratch.
Sam's company White Fiber has done this multiple times. A mattress factory in Canada, a warehouse in Montreal, and most recently this yarn factory in Madison, North Carolina, purchased at the price of $45 million.
The scale of it is insane. I can't even...
Yeah, you can't even see towards
I can't even see the other end of it.
Walking in that building is just massive. In fact, you need a vehicle just to go from one end to the other. It takes a while if you try to walk it. When we develop facilities, normally what we do is we do a box within a box. So we don't need to use the entire space for what we do. However, the excess space, what we do leverage that with respect to construction. We develop the pipes on site instead of ordering them. We do a lot of made-to-measure materials on premise, on site, and that helps accelerate timeline to turn it into an AI campus.
The North Carolina site already can carry 99 megawatts of power, with the potential for 200 more. Sam is also promising more than 60 new jobs here, but it pales in comparison to the 250 that sat here before. The change raises questions, especially for a small town of less than 2,500 people.
I know the building was there. I know residents are used to seeing that building there, the old textile factory, but obviously people are hesitant to change. What has their response been to hearing or making room for this massive AI data center?
So with respect to this building, it was a giant textile factory. We transformed that into an AI campus. We employed 500 people making that happen. We had a community day in which we showed that we're using much less water. So for example, the textile factory used 200,000 gallons of water. We used 85% less of that. So we showed them that we're using much less water than the existing facility. The noise coming out of the facility is dramatically less than it was when it was a textile factory. We're showing how many jobs were done. So for us, the retrofit approach really solves a lot of the community resistance that normally pops up when you're starting from scratch.
White Fiber says there are dozens of more sites like this one across North America, all waiting to be claimed. It's a strong signal that the next industrial revolution has already arrived.
We now know who will captain the men's team at the World Cup. It is Tim Ream, the oldest player in the squad at 38. We had a chance to talk and play with Tim over the last couple of days at the National Training Centre. He told me what it means to be the elder statesman of this squad.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I can, putting an arm around these guys but not being overbearing. You know, yeah. when they want to speak, when they want to have conversations, when they want to talk about things, you know, whether it be on the field, off the field, I'm there.
And like every one of the 26 players in this squad, Tim is determined to not just make it to the quarterfinals or the semis. He's determined to win the whole thing.
And it'd be a heck of a 250th birthday present for America to win it all.
It would be an incredible present. It would be an incredible achievement for all the guys here, for the staff, for U.S. Soccer, and we're going to try to make it happen.
So the World Cup begins in earnest for the U.S. on June 12th at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles against Paraguay. Then there are group games against Australia and Turkey. And if they make it out of the group, which they surely will, anything can happen in the knockout stages. But the road to the beginning of the World Cup begins right here in Charlotte on Sunday with a warm-up game against Senegal, one of the best teams from the African continent. It will be a good way to measure just how good this U.S. team might be. In Charlotte, North Carolina, Jonathan Hunt, Fox News.
I can solve stress by a good workout. I can solve it by things like, habits, daily routine. Those things are like Band-Aids on a flesh wound when it comes to burnout.
You may think stress and burnout are two sides of the same coin, but experts say there is a difference in how they appear in your day-to-day life.
Burnout makes it so it's increasingly harder to feel like that we can give of ourselves and our mind, our hearts, our efforts to doing the work.
Texas A&M University management professor Stephen Courtwright says a symptom of burnout is emotional exhaustion or feeling you just can't take another day of work.
If we start feeling like that we used to care but no longer care.
Another thing to look out for is
this loss of professional efficacy, or I just feel like I no longer feel like a successful professional.
With technology at our fingertips, our bosses sometimes expect us to be available around the clock. Courtwright says in order to get back in balance, you have to start by setting boundaries at work.
And the research is very clear that detachment from work psychologically makes us much more productive the next day.
He also suggests creating a daily ritual to signal the day's end.
If we can transition ourselves out from one role to the other, then we're likely to be better in both roles.
The daily ritual can be going for a walk, calling a friend, or listening to certain music to help release the stress of your workday. In New York, Gernal Scott, Fox News.
This week in history, one of the most famous clocks in the world was set in motion, an iconic automaker declared bankruptcy, and a famous slugger hung up his cleats. May 31st, 1859, the famous clock Big Ben begins ticking. Construction was finished earlier in the year, but a major modification was needed before the clock could work. The minute hands, which were initially made of cast iron, were too heavy to move. They were replaced with lighter hands made of copper sheet, so the clock could start keeping time. 2009, an American automotive giant filed for bankruptcy. General Motors entered Chapter 11 on June 1st. Then President Barack Obama said the government would provide the company with $30 billion in loan assistance as part of its restructuring. GM would emerge from bankruptcy just over a month later. Finally, June 2nd, 1935, baseball great Babe Ruth retired. He played just 28 games for the Boston Braves in his final season. When he retired, Ruth held dozens of Major League records, including 714 career home runs. With This Week in History, I'm Colin Jeffrey.
Take a look at the week we had. A lot of mishaps, misfires, and accidents, starting with one in California, where a tour bus was hit head-on by a careening Corvette. The California Highway Patrol says the bus was carrying 48 passengers down scenic 17-mile drive when the Corvette crossed the double line and smashed headfirst into the bus. One person on the bus sustained minor injuries. The Corvette's driver was hospitalized, but also arrested, police say, on suspicion of driving under the influence. No one was injured in a close call caught on cam in Colorado, where a tire came loose from a truck, crossed a road, hit a guardrail, and came rocketing back past a state trooper's vehicle. The patrol released the video just in time for the summer travel season to remind drivers to double-check their vehicles before hitting the road. Thrill seekers at a Texas amusement park got more of a scare than they bargained for when a malfunction caused a roller coaster's car to suddenly stop mid-climb, leaving 8 passengers trapped vertically in the air. Firefighters responded and used a tower truck with just enough reach to pluck the people from the ride, called the Iron Shark, which the park said would undergo a thorough inspection before returning to operation. Finally, space technology company Blue Origin says one of its rockets experienced an anomaly that resulted in a gargantuan explosion in Florida. The blast caused a visible shockwave and could be seen for miles as the massive mushroom cloud lit up the sky over Cape Canaveral. No one was injured in the incident, according to Blue Origin founder Jeff Bezos, who said it's too early to tell what went wrong with the ground test, which is ironically known as a hot fire. For Take a Look at This Week, I'm Jeremy Roth.